This didn't happen to me, but to my college buddy, whom we'll call Jake, and to this day, it remains one of my favorite tales of poetic justice, a story of love, mischief, and that delicious moment when karma catches up with you. Jake was one of those genuinely good guys, the kind of guy who not only held the door open for everyone, but also remembered the little details about people's lives that others overlooked. He had an unassuming charm, a quirky smile, and an endless optimism that made even the gloomiest day feel a little brighter. Sure, he wasn't the most confident or the flashiest dresser on campus, but he possessed a heart that overflowed with kindness and an unyielding belief in the goodness of people. Unfortunately for Jake, that generous nature was a double-edged sword, for not everyone was worthy of such admiration. And that's where Vanessa came in. Vanessa was breathtaking, an effortless force of nature who could make any room her stage. With flawless skin, a dazzling smile that could disarm even the most guarded hearts, and an air of casual sophistication, she was, in every sense, the queen of our campus. It wasn't an official title, of course, but there was no denying that every party revolved around her magnetic presence. Every guy dreamed of catching her eye, and every girl either aspired to be her friend or envied her effortlessly glamorous lifestyle. Jake had been utterly smitten with Vanessa since their sophomore year. He first noticed her in their history class, where her witty remarks and sparkling eyes made even the driest lecture feel electric. He'd watch her from the back of the room, memorizing the way she tossed her hair, the inflection of her laugh, and the glint of mischief in her eyes whenever she shared a clever comment. To him, every fleeting glance was a promise of something extraordinary, a secret invitation into her enchanting world. So naturally, Jake began asking her out, and then again, and again. Each invitation was a blend of hope and quiet desperation, as he clung to the belief that one day Vanessa might see the real him behind the kind smile and gentle eyes. Each time, Vanessa responded with a polite excuse. "Oh, I have a thing that night. I'm super busy this week. Maybe another time." She never flatly rejected him. No, that wasn't her style. Instead, she left the door ajar, just wide enough for Jake to imagine a future where he might finally be special. She relished the attention, the glow of adoration that lit up his face, even though deep down she had no intention of ever giving him the time of day. Then, one fateful day, the golden opportunity arrived. Through a twist of fate that could only be described as a miracle, Jake managed to snag 2 tickets to a sold-out U2 concert. And these weren't just any tickets. They were in the prime section, a treasure trove of promise for an unforgettable night. A friend who had been slated to attend was suddenly called away due to a family emergency, and in a moment of serendipity, sold his tickets to Jake at a steal. Without a moment's hesitation, Jake called Vanessa. Expecting yet another evasive, "maybe," he was stunned when she answered with a breathless, "Yes?" after a brief pause. "Yeah," she replied with a mischievous laugh that hinted at excitement. "I mean, U2 is amazing, right? How could I say no?" For Jake, it was as if the universe had finally aligned in his favor. He spent the entire week leading up to the concert in a state of ecstatic anticipation, meticulously planning every detail. U2's anthems blared from his speakers on repeat as he envisioned the night, the pulsating lights, the roar of the crowd, and, most importantly, the moment when Vanessa and he would finally share a real, unfiltered connection. The night of the concert arrived, and the air was electric with possibility. As Jake and Vanessa stepped into the venue, the atmosphere was charged with excitement, the crowd a sea of shimmering faces and wild energy. Every beat of the music echoed like a promise of what might be, and for a brief shining moment, everything felt perfect. Then, just as the opening chords filled the air, everything changed. Vanessa suddenly stood up, her eyes widening in feigned surprise. "Oh!" she exclaimed. "I see my friend over there. I'll be right back." With a swift motion, she excused herself, leaving Jake with a puzzled smile and a heart suddenly heavy with doubt. "Sure, no problem," he called after her, his voice betraying the tiniest hint of hope. Minutes ticked by, then more. The stage erupted into a flurry of sound and light, and Jake found himself craning his neck, searching the throng for any sign of Vanessa. But as the first U2 anthem roared through the speakers and then gave way to the next, it became painfully clear. She wasn't coming back. Desperation set in. Jake's fingers trembled as he sent out a series of texts. "Hey, you okay? Are you coming back? Should I come find you?" Each message was met with a deafening silence, a silence that seemed to mock him with its finality. As the concert progressed, the raucous cheers of the crowd became a cruel reminder of his isolation. It wasn't just that he had been ditched. It was the soul-crushing realization that Vanessa had never truly cared. Her yes had been nothing more than a fleeting amusement, a way to bask in the glow of his adoration while keeping him at arm's length. When the final chord died away and the lights slowly illuminated the exterior of the arena, Jake lingered outside, his eyes scanning the dispersing crowd in vain. He repeatedly checked his phone. No missed calls, no texts, no sign of remorse. He waited like a forlorn fool, clinging to a hope that had long since evaporated. Finally, with a heavy heart and a mind swirling with bitter clarity, he drove home in silence. The next morning, just after noon, his phone rang. It was Vanessa, her voice bright and insistent, as if nothing had happened. "Jake, oh my God, I am so sorry," she gushed the moment he answered. "You won't believe what happened." Jake's silence was measured, his tone even as he listened. "I ran into my ex," she continued, the casualness of her tone almost absurd. "We just started talking and, I don't know, one thing led to another, and we sort of had this long conversation. And I lost track of time. I feel so bad. Can you believe I missed the whole concert?" She laughed, as if recounting some hilarious mishap, as if missing a sold-out concert was merely a minor inconvenience in her otherwise perfect world. Jake's jaw tightened. He could have unleashed a torrent of hurtful words, a confession of how her callousness had cut deeper than she'd ever imagine. Instead, a cold resolve settled over him, his voice calm and measured. "That sucks," he replied evenly. "But hey, I get it. These things happen." Vanessa sighed in relief, her tone light and unburdened. "You're the best, Jake. Honestly, you're way nicer than I thought. We should totally hang out again soon." And in that moment, as Vanessa's words floated across the line, Jake felt the scales of fate tip irrevocably. He knew exactly what he had to do. "Oh, definitely," he said smoothly, his tone laced with a quiet confidence. "How about dinner this Saturday? I know this amazing seafood place up the coast." Vanessa, already envisioning another glamorous evening and the promise of effortless fun, eagerly agreed. That Saturday evening, Jake arrived to pick her up, looking impeccably put together. Sharp suit, a hint of a smirk that hinted at secrets he wasn't ready to share. The drive along the coast was nothing short of cinematic. The setting sun painted the horizon in hues of orange and purple, and the conversation flowed lightly, peppered with playful banter. Vanessa was in high spirits, laughing, flirting, and casually tossing her hair as if the night were hers to command. The restaurant they arrived at was the epitome of upscale dining. With its sweeping ocean view, soft candlelight, and a menu boasting dishes that promised decadence with every bite, it was a setting that screamed indulgence. Jake was determined to make Vanessa feel like a queen, ordering the finest appetizers, insisting on the best wine, and even encouraging her to choose an entree that might well have cost more than his weekly groceries. As the meal reached its final act, with soft music and the distant lull of crashing waves, Jake excused himself with a polite, "I'll be right back." Vanessa's eyes sparkled with anticipation as she smiled, "Take your time." But as she sipped her wine, Unaware of the storm that was about to break, Jake rose slowly from his seat. With every step he took through the restaurant, past the hum of conversation, through the fragrant corridor of the kitchen, and out the front door, the weight of his decision solidified. Here was a man who had given everything, only to be left with nothing but empty promises. Tonight, he was reclaiming his dignity. He got into his car and drove away, leaving behind the soft murmur of the restaurant and the echo of Vanessa's fading laughter. An hour later, his phone buzzed with a single message. Vanessa's texts began innocently. "Jake, are you serious?" And then a final, all-caps message. "You left me here?" For a moment, he stared at the screen, a slow smile creeping across his face, a smile that was equal parts vindication and bittersweet amusement. It wasn't about spite, really. It was the final twist in a tale that had grown too ridiculous not to laugh at. He turned off his phone, the hum of the engine mingling with the rhythmic crashing of the waves, and drove home with his head held high. And just like that, with the subtle brilliance of a carefully orchestrated plan, Jake became a legend. The story of his graceful exit and the justice served on that memorable evening spread across campus like wildfire, a reminder that sometimes the best revenge is a life lived on your own terms, with a little dash of humor and a whole lot of heart.